I first met Teresa in the fall of 2016. She was a student in my introductory physics class at UNG. In the class, she sat about 3 rows up and a bit right of center. She was highly motivated and engaged during the class, often jumping in to answer questions. I remember her very first email to me. She was having trouble submitting an answer online for a particular assignment, so she emailed me the answer to that question. The question was, why does a person's hand not a reliable unit of length to measure things? She answered the question correctly, but then went on to explain that the hand is actually now defined as a standard 4 inches and is used to measure the height of horses. This was a fact about the horse world not known to me at the time. I went ahead and gave her credit for her answer, not thinking too much about it. Little did I know that Teresa was a highly accomplished equestrian, dropping some serious horse knowledge on me. It was the first thing she taught me, and she would teach me much more over the next year and a half. Those first few weeks of class, I remember Teresa as an intelligent, bright, motivated student full of promise. I was completely oblivious to the fact that behind the scenes, she was engaged in an all-out fight for her life. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. But this bliss wouldn't last very long. A few weeks in, I learned of Teresa's medical condition. She had to miss class one day and sent me a long email. She explained her condition to me with serious clinical precision, using full medical terminology. I had to Google every other word. My heart sank as I deliberated how exactly to respond. I remember the distinct feeling of helplessness. A student of mine was fighting for her life, and all I could do to help was to excuse her class absence. It felt terrible, and it's a feeling that probably many of us in this room have felt during Teresa's battle. Teresa would experience many ups and downs and good days and bad days over the course of the semester. Nevertheless, she pulled through and completed the semester and my course in Physics 1. Towards the end of the semester, she sent me an email to thank me for being so understanding with her. She opened up to me a bit and gave me a more detailed account of her latest treatments, how she was coping, and whether she would be able to continue school the next semester. She also told me that she had looked up the stats, and she knew that she had only a 7% chance to make it through the next 5 years. But she immediately followed that up by saying, "But for now, I plan on taking Physics 2 with you in the spring," smiley face. This was one of the most remarkable things I came to realize about Teresa. She had the uncanny ability to compartmentalize things, to manage stress, and to keep moving forward. She was able to temporarily put aside the fact that she was fighting for her life and focus on things like school and completing homework assignments and taking tests and riding horses and competing in equestrian meets and adopting and taking care of her beloved dog, Maddie, and being there for her dear friends when they needed her. She made an A grade in both of my physics classes, made the highest score in the class on the last physics test that semester, and made the dean's list that semester with 3 A's and 2 B's. She placed 7th at Nationals equestrian competition, and she kept her promise to her dear friend to serve as her maid of honor. And she did much more. She accomplished all of these things after her diagnosis, after at least one invasive surgery, and after her treatment was fully underway. Very few people in the world have the ability to do so much under such difficult circumstances. Teresa had the qualities of true greatness. She did come back the following semester and take Physics 2 with me in the spring of 2017. I was very happy to see her back in class, but she went through an incredible amount of hardship related to her health and treatment during that semester as well. But she kept moving forward and completed the course with an A grade once again. I remember her sitting in the final exam room for almost the full 2 hours, diligently working through all the physics problems, in spite of all she was going through, including the nasty side effects of her medications and sleep deprivation. She would end up making 100 on that exam. After she was done with the exam, she quickly plopped down a thank you card on my desk and left. I sat there in the classroom reading her card, a full page and a half, and it was such a sweet gesture, and I was so very moved by her words. We stayed in touch through Facebook after classes ended. Teresa kept me updated with her treatments. She asked me for advice, and she also gave me advice. She shared with me her highs and lows. She ranted about things that she was frustrated about, and she shared so very many bad puns, memes, and jokes. One of the most heart-wrenching exchanges for me was when she recently shared with me a paragraph that she wrote when she was just 11 years old. She found it in her Google Docs. To quote, "If I could invent anything I wanted to, I would choose the cure for cancer. The reason I would want to find the cure for cancer is because so many people go through it. If I were the person to find the cure for cancer, it would be great for all the people that have or might get it. But it would be a wonderful accomplishment for me too." This was Teresa at age 11. The cruel irony of her own words was not lost on her. However, her ability to empathize with the plight of others at such a young age was not lost on me. Underneath all that courage, strength, and stubbornness was a person that was fundamentally deeply empathetic, kind, and compassionate. Her disease never even came close to changing this fact. It never had a chance. Teresa never lost her sense of humor, even in her most difficult moments. She once told me of a question that was asked of her on a disability form that she was filling out for school at UNG. This form dared to ask her point blank, "Does your condition eventually end in death? Yes or no?" In the face of such a devastating question asked of a 22-year-old, she opted to make a joke. She texted me and said, "They don't play," followed by 2 laughing emojis. She also told me that she and her best friend, Addie, joked that she should pick whichever answer will get her most money. I suspect that Teresa's joking was actually more for my own benefit. It was her gentle way of trying to assure me not to worry about her. With everything she was going through, she was always concerned about the impact it had on others. Like I said, she was deeply empathetic. Her empathy and concern for others was also evident in the last few hours of her life. Laying in her hospital bed, surrounded by her close friends, she began apologizing to them for inconveniencing them. Of course, her dear friends were having none of it, and reminded her of all the times that she had been there for them, that they were there by her side because they loved her. The only way this disease was eventually able to overpower Teresa was to literally make her lungs stop working. In my book, that's fighting dirty. But Teresa, she fought with honor, and she won. She remained true to herself until the very end, sweet and gentle, and yet strong and feisty in the face of a vicious disease. In fact, during the last few hours of her life, she literally ripped off the oxygen mask from her face trying to breathe on her own. It took about 3 or 4 people to put the mask back on her face. While the disease eventually conquered her body, it utterly and miserably failed in conquering her spirit. When I look back at the time when I first met her in a classroom, it seems rather ironic to me that I was her teacher and that she was my student, that she was there to learn from me. Little did I know that she would end up teaching me far more than I could have ever taught her. She taught me about the true nature of courage in the face of fear, She taught me about sheer grit and determination in the face of nearly impossible odds. She taught me about humor in the face of darkness, and she taught me about kindness in the face of suffering. With the loss of Teresa, I didn't just lose a former student, but I lost a very dear friend. I'm supposed to read one more. This is a message from the Dean of Students at the UNG. A message from the Dean of Students at UNG to you all. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Watterson, on behalf of the university, I want to reiterate our deepest sympathy for the loss of your daughter and our student, Teresa. Teresa touched many lives in the UNG community. I have shared information regarding the memorial service for Teresa with faculty and staff in the community. UNG will pay respect to Teresa's life by placing her name on a memorial marker within the UNG memorial area on the Dahlonega campus of UNG. There will be a short ceremony for the 3 new names added to this marker on Wednesday, April 25th, 2018 at noon. In addition, UNG would like to posthumously award an Association of Science degree to Teresa to recognize her continuous desire to pursue her degree. We will award this degree at the memorial service on April 25th. Your family will remain in our thoughts and prayers over the coming months. Signed, Allison Paul, Dean of Students.